Because they've closed the doors, and we don't even have our official timer here. So welcome. This is the Reverse Harem romance panel. It's also an advanced track panel. So if you're here, even if you're not a Reverse Harem author, but you're here for some more advanced marketing discussion, you are in the right place. So my name is Alex Lidell. Like everyone at this table, everyone at this table is a six-figure or above author. And I'm going to introduce them, and we're going to go into some questions. About me, I started publishing with Penguin a while ago. I then made a decision to switch indie and went into romance, which was a huge leveling up for me, and especially fell in love with Reverse Harem romance, which, in case we do have some people from other genres, Reverse Harem is a subgenre of romance where a female main character has several love interests, and she never has to choose, and everybody is cool for whatever insert plot reason here, but everybody is cool with this scenario, so she ends up with all the guys. It's a genre that especially emerged a few years ago. Now, with me here are wonderful panelists. So I specifically invited these ladies to the panel because they're not just phenomenal writers and successful authors, but also they each have a different approach. And kind of for an advanced panel, I wanted to see, to show how you can get to a particular place using very different approaches. So Katie May, who you may know from Blindly Indicted, her book. So she actually does almost no paid advertising. So she's getting to that level, and we will definitely quiz her as to how she does this. And then we have Mae Dawson, and her books are created. Instead of having spikes, she has created her career brick by brick with a very solid foundation, not just of good writing, but her stories that are interconnected with each other. So for example, in Unwanted, which is one of her flagship books, the main character is a girl who's in military type school with shifters, but she was raised by characters from another one of her series. So we're going to talk to her about what you need to do in order to create that kind of brick by brick to get it there. And then Caroline Peckham for Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac, which is something that she's well known for. Her interesting journey is that she is straddling different subgenres. So we can pick her brain about writing RH and speculative fiction, as well as contemporary, and how those compare. And she's a big co-writer, so we will definitely pick her brain on that. But ladies, to start with, I'd like to do a lightning round. Since this is, Reverse Harem panel, I want to go and I want to find out. Tell me something about Reverse Harem tropes or writing or unwritten rules that you really have to have. So I have stolen the first one where the girl has several love interests, and she never chooses at the end. Next.
The guys also have relationships with each other. That could be a brotherly relationship, a friendship, or it could be a romantic relationship.
The heroine is at the center of this web, so there can be MM or there can not be. Readers are very passionate about that and divided in what they like. And there can also be FF, but in that case, the female character in the harem has to only be involved with the heroine.
So there's usually a huge amount of character development, and that building a family unit comes towards the end of the series between the five of them. Well, however many, sorry.
Keep passing the mic, one more.
No cheating.
The heroine is the one who saves the world. So while she might be, a badass, or she might be dependent on the male heroes in some physical ways, she is the one that ultimately has the power.
I've got the last one. There can be like other women drama, but it needs to come before the guys ever touch the main girl in the harem. You can have it, but then as soon as they've been with the girl, that needs to stop.
All right. So the kind of the speed and efficiency with which these authors are able to talk about the key staples of the genre, if you're writing in a different subgenre, when you're at this level and getting to this level, you want to be able to talk about your genre and be able to rattle off those reader expectations, those things that readers are letting us into their fantasies to take them on a journey. We want to respect that. So what are the things you're going to respect about your readers' expectations? You should be thinking about that and be able to create those lists. All right, so I want to, let's start with some specialized questions. So, Katie, I'm kind of loving this. So you can be like a 6-figure author, totally advertising free. I mean, this sounds like heaven. Is it really all for free? Come on.
Yeah, so I don't spend any money on advertisements. I don't do Facebook ads, Amazon ads, or anything like that. My cost is my time. So I'm very active in my readers group, on social media, on my Facebook page, Instagram and stuff. I develop good bonds with my readers. I respond to every comment I get. I respond to every message and email. If I see it, there's a lot of times I don't see stuff. So I kind of get that reader loyalty. So I can go a year and a half without releasing a book in the series, and then I release it, and it'll make the top 100 in all of Amazon, because I do develop that reader loyalty that sticks with me from book to book and series to series.
So you would spend 15 minutes a day on Facebook?
No, I usually check Facebook 3 or 4 times an hour.
Sorry, was that an hour or a day?
An hour.
All right, guys, the cost of free advertising. Everybody with us? So, May, my question to you is, you've got 30 books that are interconnected, and you've really built your platform on creating that foundation. For somebody, what are some things how does that work? What do you need to keep in mind in order to be able to do that?
Yeah, I started off doing that because I'm like a Category 5 clinger, and I was really attached to my characters, and so I wanted to keep talking about them. And it turned out to actually be a good business move by accident, because I get a lot of people that come into one book, and each of my series I make sure to have as a totally separate entry point, that there's no need to have read the other books, but then they get glimpses of those other characters, and hopefully they keep following me through my backlist. And so they can't all be orphans, right, if you are going to do that. There are really 4 categories, I feel like, that I can pull secondary characters from to become primary characters. And those are the siblings, the friends, neighbors, actually there's 5, sorry, coworkers, which I write paranormal romance, but they can still be coworkers, like fellow folks who are in the military, or the coven, or the Vampire Guild, whatever, and then even villains, if you give them a good backstory, can be redeemed in their own arc. And so it just means building a bigger world with vibrant secondary characters that can carry over their own story. And it also gives you a chance to test those characters and see if they're going to be worth writing a book about from a marketing perspective.
Carolyn, my question for you is, so a lot of us find that once we are in, let's say we're writing speculative fiction, and you just learn how to do that and how to market that, and it is very difficult to then move over. Now, you are very successful working in both speculative fiction and contemporary. Can you talk a little about the differences between those two kind of streams of approaches?
Yeah.
Reader expectations, just the differences.
Yeah, I mean, they're not that different. I think reverse harem readers will read a lot of reverse harem broadly. We were nervous at first, and we weren't sure whether to go pen name, but we went and we stuck with it, and to be honest, it was the best decision. And I think, yeah, there are differences between it. One of the things would be that contemporary readers don't seem to wait as long between releases. So we try to do like we work on one contemporary series at a time, and then we sort of doing the paranormal between that. And they might wait 6 months or something for a series to come out, or they might wait a bit longer for the whole series to come out. But apart from that, in terms of advertising, it's pretty similar. Obviously, the covers are different. We have like a female character on the contemporary, or a symbol cover, and then obviously like no magical elements.
Can you clarify? You said contemporary readers can wait 6 months between books, or
No, that would be like for the series to complete. I mean, that's our goal. We would try and complete a contemporary within 6 months, ideally.
Got it. So would you recommend if somebody was looking to put out a contempt series, maybe holding on to the book so that they could release it within 6 months?
Yeah, that could work. I mean, we write up to the release. So we'll do them as and when they're ready, but you could hold them back if it takes you a bit longer to write, and then release them maybe one a month or every 2 months or something could work quite well.
So kind of a shorter flexibility on how much they can bridge.
Yeah, definitely. They like to wait for the full series to complete. We got a huge spike when our Kings of Quarantine series finished, so it just showed like how many people were waiting for that.
Thank you. Now, this is a question that I'm hoping all of you guys can answer in turn for me. Now, all of you are currently very prolific writers. I know that most of you can produce a book in about a month. I imagine that this was a journey. Can you talk about something that helped you increase efficiency in your production process? I want to keep my mic, so can you share that one?
I can start. So I started co-writing with my sister in 2019, and this just was like a huge thing that helped basically get books out quicker. If you're co-writing, obviously you're writing half the book, but we actually found we just write double the length books now. So we write like multiple POV, and we take different characters, and then we write chapter by chapter. So I'll write one, she writes the next one, and this creates like a snowball effect. So she's essentially waiting for my next chapter, and I'm waiting for her next chapter because we want to read on with the book. And it just makes a really amazing system that just makes us really prolific because we just want to keep writing.
For me, writing sprints have been huge in increasing my efficiency. And a key piece of that for me turned out to be outlining the scene before I started sprinting it. So whether you are a plotter or a pantser, I think it's worth trying, because a lot of times you get hung up on those logistical issues, at least I do. And so planning out exactly who's in the scene, what the undercurrents are in their conversation, kind of blocking the movement out beforehand allows me to sit down and then just sprint or dictate smoothly. And write a lot faster.
Was there an optimal time for a sprint that you found works for you?
Yes, for me it's 20 minutes, but I know some people who say 10 minutes is much more effective for them, and some say half an hour, so you really have to experiment.
And when you say to sit and plot out before you start, are you talking about an hour of plotting before doing that sprint, or what are you really talking about?
About 5 minutes.
Thank you.
I do a couple different things, but they kind of relate to each other. One of the things I at first thought I needed to do was write 8 to 5, 9 to 5, have those set hours that I would write. But then I decided that it wasn't helping. I was deleting more than I was keeping. So now I only write when I'm inspired, and it's usually the afternoon after I have my coffee. But I also write multiple books at one time. So if I ever get bored with one book, or I get stuck on a book, or I don't feel like writing it, I'll just switch over to a different book and I'll work on that one. And usually they're different genres, different styles, co-writes, whatever they want to be, but just something to change it up and make it so it's not so, the same over and over again.
Nice. Now, my friendly support team, will you guys give us, is somebody keeping an eye on the time except for me? Will you let us know? Okay, perfect. All right, just making sure that they're not trusting me, because I wouldn't. Yeah. What about you? We talked about leveling up in terms of production because you are all very prolific writers, and we're kind of not the kind of thing where you wake up one morning and start writing prolifically and efficiently and well. But let's talk about business side leveling up. Except for that, so everybody here is 6 figures or above. But again, you did not. That was not the first day of your career. What were 1 or 2 milestones or things that you did or changed or happened for you that were catalysts along the way that really kind of propelled you along? Can we start with you, Katie?
So I actually started writing as a bet with my sister that I lost. When I published my book, I didn't know what I was doing. I just put it out there because of the bet. And I made, practically nothing on it that first month because, I had no idea what I was doing. But then the very next month, someone actually just posted a screenshot of my book in one of the Facebook groups. And I literally made like 10 times the amount the first month, the very second month. And it's just been steadily rising ever since. So I guess for me, I never really had this moment where I was just like, oh, I had this big break. It's always been kind of like on the rise because I found my niche, I found my voice, and I just been utilizing it. So readers who have been with me from the beginning, they kind of stick with me because I have a very unique style and humor, and they know what to expect from my books.
Now, you said that it was posting in a group that
Yes.
really kind of sparked. Now, before that, we know that right now you're a social media kind of guru and you like do it. Before that happened, was that always your strength and suddenly this happened and you could lean into that strength, or is that something that you had to suddenly teach yourself to do at that point?
Yeah, I mean, when I started off that first month, like I made a little Facebook group. I had like 40 people in it. Yes, I was pretty active in it just because, I'm just a, doofus. I just was like posting stupid things. But, once that kind of blew up and I started seeing a lot of people, join it, I kind of had to learn how to, not only like reply to every comment and message and stuff, also take care of myself and ignore all the ones I didn't want to see. So, you get a lot of hate messages sometimes, and, I learned how to just, ignore them and focus on all the positives. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. I'll also add from just from my observational perspective, and this is talking about leaning into strength. So although I met Katie online before, this year was the first time that I met her in person, and we were kind of over the past few days, as a group of our age authors, we did a few things, meet up here, meet up there, and she has a natural strength for organizing and bringing people together and replying. We're all kind of here, and we all know what social media is, and we're all right. I mean, everybody is, but there were events we went to, like an escape room, which wouldn't have happened if she hadn't just naturally just reached out to every person there was never like shouting or anxiety or, like everybody listen to me. It's something that she does that is a huge strength. I would please realize that to do what she does, it's going to either you are innately something you enjoy and are good at, or it will take a lot of effort. It's not, because I was watching even something as organizing, a whole bunch of people to get into an Uber, more people than would normally fit into an Uber. It was, all right, it's those little things that were done without any anxiety levels of everybody else. She just quietly made sure that everybody felt included, and that's a big strength that she's managed to lean into. don't expect that just because you know how to log into Facebook, that is going to translate into this without kind of significant effort. And again, was that 3 to 4 times a day, did you say you were logged in? You're
Like 3 to 4 times an hour, sometimes like a minute.
all right.
All right, Alex said 1 to 2 things that helped me level up, but I'm going to rebel a little because there wasn't like 1 or 2 things that were a major step for my career. It was a lot of little things. I have made pretty much every mistake that you can make as an indie author. I like to be very thorough. So figuring out the next step and correcting those mistakes and doing things a little better than I did them before have all been little building blocks for me to level up. So when I released my very first reverse harem book, I didn't have any money to put into it, and I put it out with my own cover. You know, I did not know if I was going to make any money or if anyone was going to read this book, and I didn't have the money to lose. And that is a mistake, but it was the right thing for me to do at the time anyway, to just get moving. And so then as soon as I made some money on that book, I just put it back into my books and professional covers. But they still weren't very good professional covers because I hadn't learned yet how to find the right comps, how to talk to a cover designer, you know, how to make my covers the best they could be. They did not look like this one back then. So getting better professional covers was another step that leveled me up. And then writing more to market as I started to better understand what my readers wanted, and then figuring out how to better communicate that to my readers by writing better blurbs. You know, those are all things that I have done that have slowly helped me step up my career. And then starting for me to run some paid ads because I'm not as adorable as Katie. So I need, you know, a little more help getting readers to find my books. So.
And I got to see kind of May go through this journey, and she really was that methodical. You know, we had a lot of conversations. Hey, you know, let's run by. I think I found, you know, these things that are really capturing and resonating with our readers. You know, let's list them out. Let's see how we can more apply them. You know, I tried it in this book and it didn't. I don't think I hit it hard enough. Let me hit it harder in this book. So I can definitely vouch for that process. She really kind of builds on every step. Caroline, so we're talking about leveling, kind of some things that have been catalysts in pushing you leveling up.
Mm-hmm. So there's been a few things in the last couple of years. Obviously, the co-writing with my sister has been massive. We've gone officially into business together, so we are playing on each other's strengths all the time. So where I lack in things, she's strong in things, and we just work together really cohesively. So even beyond the writing, those things are really important. If you're picking a co-writer, obviously you need someone that you can really vibe with and someone you really know. So another thing is we started looking at our backlist and working out maybe why things weren't selling as well as they could be, why things may have been like tailing off a little bit. We started tracking with sort of over a year. We'll look at the rank of all our books in our series. And the ones that start doing this, we basically workshop them. We might give them a rebrand, we'll give them a new cover, a new blurb, looking at the tropes that are out there right now that now fit it. And we'll give it a whole new look and then relaunch and get that back up there. For a while we were chasing releases because it kind of goes like this and then it goes like this and that baseline doesn't come up. So trying to get a book out every month is not sustainable and it's exhausting. So yeah, like you need to be looking at advertising and bringing your baseline up on all series and making sure every single series you have is on brand for the current trends because, you know, you might have a trope within a book that you weren't advertising before, which has now got really hot in an older series. So just look at where you can play on those things. And you can bring it back up again, give it new life.
So let me see if I have this correct. So kind of your first, it sounds a big catalyst was just an increase in production, which you did by co-write.
Yeah.
And then that led to kind of this kind of profit curve.
Yeah.
Release.
We just it was constantly like this. So the baseline, because the more books you get the little shift, but it just was constantly coming back down and we couldn't keep it up.
So then the second catalyst to push it up was to bring that baseline up. And that you guys did with rebranding the backlist?
Yeah, and advertising. Basically we looked at all ads again. Even adverts need to be on brand. So if you're looking at For example, like a werewolf trend is hot right now. The adverts can reflect that. So you can use images that almost look like cover images that are on trend. And those will work way better because everyone's recognizing that at the moment. But you might, in a year or two, need to change that up, and vampires are hot, and you had a vampire in there as well. So now it's a vampire book.
Okay. So first was increase productivity. Second was raise the baseline. And while you haven't mentioned it in this panel yet, was there a possibly third catalyst that had possibly anything to do with TikTok? I don't know.
Yeah, TikTok this year. We had a TikTok go viral back in January. So it's not just kind of one. You have to consistently post on TikTok. And I did a talk on it yesterday. If you missed that, it's worth catching up on. So when that TikTok went viral, basically we got a book that had ranked maybe, I think we got it to top 900 when it released. It got to 14 in the Amazon US store from this TikTok, and it hasn't left the top 100 for 8 months since that happened. Yeah, so get on TikTok.
So, thank you. So we've got a notice, again, we are all very successful authors. Notice that there's a slightly different, if you were to track their levels, right? If you were to just visually look, at Caroline's, it would initially look like this, right? And then the next big push raised the baseline, and then the next one pushed it higher. And then when we look at May's, it was building block. Let me correct this. So it would look a little more steady progression. And for you too, right? It would kind of look a little bit more of a slope than a staircase, right? Yeah, so notice very different ways that we're all getting to the top, but different ways. So the last question that I have for all three of you before we open it up to the audience is, I'm hearing a bunch about co-writing. And what I want to know isn't just, how great and wonderful it is, but because, how nice. But if somebody's looking to go into co-writes, what are the conversation, if your best friend came to you and said, you know what, I'm thinking of co-writing, what are the things you would talk to your best friend about and give them recommendations before they jumped in order to make it most successful? Can we start on this end?
Okay. So yeah, my co-author is actually in the room. I don't know if I'm going to embarrass her. Anne, right there. No, but one thing I recommend is kind of like knowing you have a vibe with this person, like talking to this person ahead of time. Don't just kind of like, oh, I see you around on Facebook, but I never talk to you, but, I'm going to co-write with you. I recommend, doing someone you're friends with, someone that you can talk to, because that's really important. Because not only do your writing styles have to mesh well together, but also, you have to, you're going to have disagreements, and you don't want to hurt your personal relationship and your business relationship. And I also recommend having a contract in place, just to make sure, that, in the event of anything happening, both of you are protected legally. And then my co-authoring process, it kind of varies, but, most of the time what it is that me and my co-author will each, write chapter by chapter. So let's just say I take chapter 1 and she takes chapter 2. So after I'm done writing, she'll go back through and she'll add, like 500 words, change things up, highlight everything that she changes, and it's like, oh, no, I don't understand this, oh, change this. And then I'll go through her chapter, do the exact same thing. So it's like a mixture of our styles and our voices. And the goal is you can't tell who wrote what. So a lot of times we'll ask our alphas and be like, hey, can you tell who wrote which scene? And if they say, oh, yeah, that's obviously Katie, then I'm like, oh, okay, we need to go back in there and, change it a little bit. So, yeah, I feel like that's the goal.
Now, was the contract, was it awkward at all? Because if you're friends with somebody, say, hi, I know you're my friend, but can we have a contract? How do you have that? Was that difficult or easy? Are we just at a professional level where that is expected? And if people aren't expecting it, that maybe they're not at that level yet. What would you say?
Yeah, no, I just feel like, even if we're close friends with someone, hey, I want a contract, it's just like, I personally don't get offended because, like, I understand the reasoning, it's not, yes, there might be issues that come up, but, like, if all of a sudden, like, this is macabre, but, like, if I die in a car accident, I still want, my co-author to get the royalties, So it's just like that protection.
And your dog to get your side of the royalties.
Yes, yep. You're giving me my dog my royalties. So yeah, no, it's just it's a professional thing. I mean, if you look at it like, oh, this person doesn't trust me, it's just a maturity, professional thing. You can be best friends with something, but issues will happen, and you need that protection.
Yep, I am giving now everybody in this room moral permission to have a contract with your friend as a level of professionalism and respect you're extending to your friend.
I think it's really helpful to understand your writing and revision process and to have a co-writer who understands that, and then to be able to come together and talk about where you naturally match up and where you differ. There are a lot of authors out there that write up until upload, and that is a very valid and successful way to write books for them, right? For me, it sends me into panic, and once we have the book done, I get burnt out, right? And I don't have time to be burnt out. So I've started to be very upfront with my co-writers about look, this is the process that works for me, and I know you have a different process, but how can we make this work for both of us? And then the other thing I think is to talk about the what ifs, including the what ifs you don't want to talk about. So, what are we going to do if this book doesn't sell? Are you going to want to just end the series and leave it hanging out there, and we'll be getting angry messages from readers, but maybe that is worth it to us to not be pouring more time into something that's not selling? Or are we going to finish it, and to just kind of talk through those things and see where you differ?
So obviously, me and my sister are in a unique situation. Not many people have either a sister or a family member they can write with. But for the actual process, I think it's really important to be on the same page and be really open when you're talking to a co-writer. You need to know where your boundaries are. If you're writing reverse harem, if you're writing dark romance, obviously you need to talk about if you're going to write with someone, there can be dub-con and non-con in these books. So you need to know where those boundaries are and draw those lines together, and make sure you're on the same page with all of that. You also might want to figure out how you're going to do it. We write 50% of the book always, and we do share, we do our own characters and that kind of thing, but there are different ways you can do it. You could edit and write on things like that. So you need to just be aware that you don't want one person doing 80% of the work, and that's obviously where contracts come in as well, to be careful that doesn't happen.
Now, do I have this? Was it you who were telling me that the process was that you were alternating girl chapters and guy chapters, and that one person wrote always? So that was, I thought it was an interesting and a different way of splitting it up than Katie
so we
splitting
do.
it up.
So with reverse harem, one of us does the girl, and the other of us does. We usually do 4 guys, and we rotate them, so it'll be girl, guy, and then the four guys are basically on rotation, unless we need them to come in. But yeah, so that keeps it 50-50 by doing it that way.
Thank you. Right, those are the questions that I had for the whole panel. How much time do we have? 13 minutes. Excellent. So please, if we could have people at the mic, and let's. So what I'm going to do is we're going to have a question asked. Panelists, if you want to. People who are asking the question, please tell us your name and what you write. And panelists, if you want to answer the question, we're not going to have everybody answer every question, probably just one person. So if that's a question you feel strongly about answering, please just raise your hand or grab the mic. Yes, please, what is your name and what do you write?
I write under J. Almador for my reverse harem and my romance, PNR romance, and under Auburn Tempest for my urban fantasy. My question is, when you're talking about leveling up, no one mentioned translations. Have you, all 4 of you, any of you, moved into translations?
I have not.
It's on my to-do list, but it hasn't quite made it to the top yet.
So not on Where did my person go? Oh, hi. So not on this panel. I believe there is Britt. Who's to be Maya? She's not but there is if you come up to Katie, who knows everybody, after the panel, she will direct you or maybe Facebook connect you with a person who is doing a lot of foreign rights and has the most experience in that. If I were you, I would go straight to this lady right here. Yes, what is your name and your genre in question?
I'm JD Monroe. I write paranormal romance. I'm going to be writing sci-fi romance next year. And I wanted to ask May specifically. You were talking about binding your series together, spin-offs and stuff, which I love the idea. I was curious, two things. How much of that are you planning in advance? Are you like, okay, this secondary character, I know I'm going to spin him off into the next 5-book series or whatever? Or is it readers are really responding to this character? And then part two of that is, how do you signal to the readers that these things are connected, like through social media, back matter, whatever?
So it's gotten to be a much more purposeful process for me over time, where I started off just being like, oh, I wrote about this character and I really like them and I'm going to write something else about them, to now where I'm like, okay, I know that I am including someone in this book that is going to be in a later book. Let's see. What was the second part of the question? Yes, so I put that in my back matter, right? So each series, like each book, leads to the next book in my back matter with a link to the next one. And then when I get to the last book, I say, hey, do you remember when you met this character? Did you want to know more about them? And I link to the first book in that series. So I certainly hope that readers are getting some signal that that is an interesting character that they would like to read more about, and that is important, even though they're not important to that story just by how it's written, but I am certainly flat out telling them at the end, go buy my next book.
And what is your name in question?
I'm Cassie Keegan. I write science fiction, reverse harem, romance. My question is about blurbs. How do you do the reverse harem signals without saying reverse harem and going into the dungeon? And I have a second question. Could you give us an idea of a reverse harem no-no a pitfall that you might help us from falling into?
Okay, so with blurbs, I find a good way is just to list the 4 guys' names, maybe a couple of lines into the blurb, and just a little description of them, like these 4 guys, and then I just noticed that in so many blurbs, and we use it all the time. We don't write reverse harem anywhere on the blurb of the first book because you can't advertise with Amazon if you do that. So we say this book has the female will end up with multiple love interests is a little thing at the bottom. And the second question was a no-no.
No choosing?
Yeah, no choosing. No other women drama after the fact that they've got together. Yeah, we had that. We had one complaint about that because it was just one person in it was this book actually, and the guy hadn't got with the girl. They hadn't even kissed, but he did kiss another girl towards the end of the book, but they hadn't got together. We did leave it in because we were like, they're not together. It's not breaking the rule.
Just in case, I know that's not the question that you asked, but in case other people have the question, if we're talking about sexual content, if there's a yes or no for sexual content, reverse harem in itself does not connote a particular level of steam. You can have everything from very sweet to erotica. The words reverse harem do not connote one or the other. There's a whole range. Hello, what is your name and question?
I am Emma Fidel, and I write paranormal, sci-fi, high fantasy, reverse harem. And my question is for all of you guys. I just think it's something interesting to explain to some of the other people who don't write reverse harem or multi-POV. How do you balance the internal monologues when you are writing from so many different characters, because you don't want your guys to sound the same? So how do you separate those voices?
Okay, so I always, before I even start writing, like I'll make a little plan of like what I want my characters to be, because with the reverse harem, it's so important that you make each guy have a distinct personality. Usually I'm not saying every book, but a lot of times you see like similar tropes in all the books. You'll have the sweet guy, the alpha guy, the flirty one, so that's usually when I write their point of view, I keep that in mind, certain words, I lost my train of thought. Does someone else want to take it? Because it's gone.
I've got just to add to that because that's perfect. But also, like, you can give them little quirks and things like scents, tattoos that are different, and that you can mention them, obviously hair color and things. But also, we use a lot, like the guys will each have a different nickname for the girl, and things like that just make them stand out a little more and just really like stick in your head.
Yeah, different limp and eye patch, different names. That's from theater. A lot of times they talk about how every character has their own different names for the girl, scents.
Yeah,
always.
scents. It just all makes them just stand out and become more real in your mind and separates all the guys more individually.
And for heaven's sake, list out all the names and don't have them all start with the same letter.
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, the fangirling is real right now. let's leave with that. I know you two online. I'm Crystal Pena, Margot's PA. Hi. I write paranormal romance and fantasy romance. Sometimes they have multiple P's, sometimes they don't. My question piggybacks off the last one. So I'm like at level 1 writing ninja with 3 men, right? How do you level up after that?
I'm sorry. Can you? I'm trying to understand the question a little better. Are you
So,
talking
like,
about
I'm,
leveling?
Like adding more people into the harem and keeping it
So it's a
straight.
craft. So you have a
Yeah.
craft question, right? If I understand correctly, you have already started a story, and so far you have a girl and you have 3 guys,
Yes,
and
I've
now
done a
you're
couple.
looking to introduce more guys into
Into
that,
the
and you're
harem.
looking for plot devices for how to introduce them. Is that the question?
Yeah, just like managing the whole thing, because I've been stuck at just doing the basic 3, so I just wanted to add more in there, and it's just like managing all of it.
Managing. Okay, again, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to make sure that I understand. Are you talking about managing
Adding
your
more in there.
organization? Like, are you looking for us to talk about how we keep track, like a character
Yes.
Bible type thing? Okay, yeah. So, can you guys talk about best practices in how you keep track of all of these different characters, sense, personalities, voices? What's the organizational, especially if you're with a co-writer, making sure that your orphan from chapter 1 doesn't call mom for Mother's Day in chapter 3.
Yeah, we have a shared spreadsheet. So we have eye color, hair color. We just have like a little chart for each one. Scents, everything, tattoos, especially if like Suzanne writes a character, even a side character, any character in the book we put in this spreadsheet, because then I need to go there and if I'm using that side character later, I need to just double check what they look like because she made him up or her up and I don't know what they look like. So it just keeps it all really consistent. So it's a good way to just use a spreadsheet.
Is that an Excel? Is that a Google Doc?
It's a Google Doc sheet, yes.
And do you include pictures in it?
No.
I also do an Excel spreadsheet, and I like to start working on it when I am first planning the book. And I also, for my own purposes there, put things like emotional wound, what the nickname is they're going to have for the FMC, like what it is that they bring to the table that she needs. And that is just stuff that helps me sort of like build up these characters to differentiate them from the beginning, because each of them needs to have their very own romance with the heroine. And I also find it is helpful to not necessarily bring them all in at one time. They might all be like present, but they don't all get to talk very much in book 1. Like the Grouch, like he's just sitting over there being like a rock, and he doesn't get to talk in book 1, So it makes it a little easier on yourself to not be like trying to give all these guys equal playing time early on.
Can I just add quickly, just before you go, because you mentioned pictures, we do build Pinterest boards and we pick models for every reverse harem when we're starting out a new series. So we do have the same image in mind for all the guys and the girl.
So I made so many mistakes starting out. I have no idea why people read my first book. So I actually got it re-edited, and I realized I was like, oh, in book 1, this guy has blue eyes, and now he has green eyes, and one like brown eyes, and then like blue eyes. So like I was awful at keeping track. And to be completely honest, I still don't keep track. I just kind of, if I need to look something up, I spend like an hour looking things up because for some reason, I'm against like spreadsheets and, Google Docs, like with the character information. So I'm in the minority there that I can't, I don't know. I've been trying to get better at it. When I do it, I do like Google Docs, or I like write it in notes on my phone, and I write down like, their descriptions, their personalities. But yeah, I'm a little different there.
And for me, it's something that the ongoing part I outsource. Specifically, one of my editor keeps track of this, and I especially go back to my editor as time passes in the books, and it's now 2 years later, and I forget whose kids are what age now. So I will enter, and we are celebrating Kathy's XX birthday. Note to editor, how old is she now? Is it, is it spring or summer? We have not, but since we have about 40 seconds, you can tell us all about it afterwards. One thing I would love to do, and I am excited to know what it is now, but I'm going to wait 29 seconds to ask. One thing I want to ask is, I know this is the last official day of the conference, so if people want to come find you, are you still going to be here for the book signing tomorrow? Or is today, like if somebody needs to come ask you a question or ask you something about your book, is today really the last day to find you? Katie?
I'm going to be here. Today is my last day, but you can always find me online.
I will be at the signing.
All right. Thanks.
Maya, M-A-Y-A? Yep.